Welcome back to Pathkeeper. We're on episode 10. I had to actually turn my light on because the sun is going down. Discernment is love wearing clear eyes. Not every feeling is truth, but not every doubt is wisdom either. So, how do you learn to tell the difference? Welcome back to Pathkeeper, a podcast and written series for those who are returning to truth, embodiment, and their true self, what I call original design. Remember, this space is meant to be felt, not rushed. This episode may be one of the most important conversations we'll have this season. Because once you begin remembering who you are, once you begin trusting yourself again, another question naturally appears. How do I know what's true? I know I spent years on the pursuit of truth. How do I recognize the voice of wisdom without confusing it with fear or wishful thinking or old survival patterns? This episode is called Discernment is Love Wearing Clear Eyes. I used to think discernment meant having all the answers. Now I think it means something much simpler. It's the willingness to keep choosing reality, even when fantasy feels more comforting. Discernment is not suspicion. It's not cynicism. It's not constantly questioning yourself until you're frozen. Discernment is simply learning to see clearly. And clarity is an act of love. Love for yourself. Love for others. Love for reality. One of the biggest mistakes we can make on any healing journey is believing that every strong feeling must be followed. Sometimes what feels urgent is actually an old wound asking for attention. Sometimes what feels familiar is simply familiar because we've lived there for so long. Our nervous system doesn't always recognize what's healthy at first. It recognizes what's familiar, and those aren't always the same thing. That realization changed my life because I stopped asking what feels the strongest, and I started asking what remains true when I calm down and pay attention. That's the question. It has saved me more times than I can count. But here's what I've learned. Fear usually speaks quickly. Truth very rarely is rushed or urgent. Fear says, act now. Truth says, it's okay to take your time. Fear puts blinders on, and truth takes them off. Fear wants certainty. Truth is okay with patience. Fear often divides the world into heroes and villains. Truth reminds us that people are usually far more complicated than what meets your eyes. Discernment doesn't ignore reality, it includes it. If your conclusion requires you to ignore obvious facts, dismiss every disagreement, or isolate yourself from everyone who questions you, pause. Not because you're wrong, because wisdom welcomes examination. Truth does not become weaker because you looked at it more carefully or asked more questions. it becomes stronger. One of the most beautiful things about a regulated nervous system is that it creates room for discernment. When your breathing slows, your body settles. When your body settles, your mind becomes less reactive. When your mind becomes less reactive, your truth has space to speak. That's why embodiment matters. Matters? Embodiment matters. Not because your body is always right, but because your body often tells you when you are no longer safe enough to think clearly. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is drink a glass of water, take a walk, sleep on a decision, wait until tomorrow. Truth has remarkable patience. It doesn't panic when you slow down. Discernment also requires humility, being teachable, being willing to say, I don't know yet, or maybe I misunderstood. That's not weakness. It's wisdom making room to grow. The goal isn't to become someone who's never wrong. The goal is to become someone who can recognize the difference without shame. Because shame clouds judgment just as quickly as pride does. Neither of them helps us see. But love does, reality does, honesty does. As always, I've got a somatic practice for you. Bring one decision into your awareness. Oh, wait. Just one. That's too many. Just think about one. Then ask yourself these questions. Am I responding or am I reacting? What changes if I wait until tomorrow? Does this conclusion make me more open or more closed? Does it move me towards greater integrity or greater fear? Remember, fear is just false evidence appearing real. Finally, one hand on your heart, one hand on the belly. Take one slow breath and ask yourself, what remains true after I become still? Don't force an answer. Truth is rarely in a hurry. As we close, remember this: discernment is not about becoming suspicious of yourself. It's about becoming trustworthy with yourself, learning to hold your thoughts, your emotions, your body, your beliefs, your honesty, and compassion. That is how wisdom grows. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. What stayed with you? What are you learning to trust? This is a guided journey through remembrance, nervous system healing, identity, discernment, embodiment, and returning to what's true beneath survival patterns. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who you truly are. Thank you for walking the path with me. Walk in truth, hold the line, and become the path. See you in the next one.